There is a specific type of person that the world cannot manage. They don't react on cue. They don't chase what is withheld from them. They don't beg for what refuses to stay. They don't need the deal badly enough to take a bad one. They don't need the approval badly enough to compromise themselves to get it. And what makes them this way is not callousness. It is not that they feel less than others. It is that they have built something most people spend their lives trying to build in entirely the wrong direction. The world is full of people trying to manage their emotions by managing their circumstances. These people built theirs differently. They learned to manage their emotions regardless of circumstances. That is detachment, and it is the most misunderstood concept in psychology, in philosophy, and in every self-help category combined. The word detachment produces an immediate misunderstanding in most people. They hear it and think, coldness, disconnection, the absence of feeling, someone who doesn't care. This is almost exactly the opposite of what genuine psychological detachment actually is. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to allow emotion to make decisions on your behalf. Psychologically, detachment refers to the specific capacity to experience an emotion without immediately acting from it, to feel the pull of someone's withdrawal without immediately chasing, to feel the desire for approval without immediately performing for it, feel the sting of someone's disapproval without immediately apologizing for things you did not do wrong. The emotion arrives, the person observes it, then they decide what to do. From that observation, not from the automatic momentum of the feeling itself, is distinct from suppression. Suppression is the attempt to prevent the emotion from being felt. Detachment allows the emotion fully, and then declines to be directed by it. Suppression always fails, eventually. Detachment, once built, becomes the most reliable source of internal freedom available to any human being, because it does not depend on the absence of difficulty. It functions most powerfully in the presence of it. Your emotions, in the wrong hands, are the most complete manual for managing your behavior that exists. And most people hand that manual over continuously, in every interaction where they reveal what they need, what they fear, and what they cannot tolerate losing. The mechanism is straightforward. In any dynamic, the person who knows what the other needs and controls access to it holds power over them in direct proportion to how much they need it and how few alternatives they have. Your jealousy tells someone exactly what to do to maintain your attention. Your need for approval tells someone exactly how to get your compliance. Your fear of abandonment tells someone exactly how to change your behavior. Every emotional dependency you have is a lever, and the world is full of people, some consciously, some not, who learn to pull levers. This does not require a villain. Most of the people who use your emotional reactions against you are not doing so with explicit intent. They are simply navigating toward outcomes they want through the paths of least resistance, and your predictable emotional responses are almost always the path of least resistance between who they are and what they want from the interaction. The brain is a pattern recognition and prediction machine, and in the context of relationships, it builds extraordinarily efficient prediction models around the people who matter to us. You do not just respond to what happens, you anticipate what will happen based on what has happened before. And this anticipation system is exactly where emotional dependence lives. When someone's approval has historically produced relief, your brain generates the relief-seeking behavior before the approval has been given, just in anticipation of the possibility. When someone's withdrawal has historically produced anxiety, your brain generates the anxiety response before the withdrawal has occurred. At the first sign that it might, you are not responding to reality. You are responding to your brain's prediction of reality. That prediction system is what most people experience as emotional dependence, and it is nearly invisible until you know to look for it. Detachment, from a neurological standpoint, is the gradual retraining of this prediction system. It happens through the practice of noticing the anticipatory emotion, the preemptive anxiety, the preemptive need, the preemptive chase, and inserting a pause between the anticipation and the automatic response. That pause, practiced consistently over time, literally rewires the prediction pathways. It is not philosophy at that point. It is neurobiology. The Stoics did not stumble into detachment as a side effect of temperament. They built it deliberately, through specific practices that modern psychology has only recently begun to fully understand the mechanism of. The primary Stoic detachment practice was the dichotomy of control. the rigorous daily discipline of sorting every situation, every person, every outcome into two categories: what is within my control and what is not. Into the first category, their own thoughts, values, effort, and responses. Into the second, everything else, other people's behavior, external outcomes, other people's opinions. This sorting was not resignation. It was the daily installation of the psychological boundary between where emotional investment was appropriate and where it was not. Seneca practiced what he called the premeditation of adversity, visualizing the loss of the things he valued most, regularly, deliberately, while they were still present, not from masochism, but from specific intent, to prevent the shock of loss from producing the kind of emotional devastation that leaves a person unable to function. He wanted to grieve things before losing them, in small doses, preventively, so that the actual loss would find him prepared rather than destroyed. Epictetus held every goal with a reserve clause. I will pursue this, and if the universe prevents it, I will accept that outcome. Not the absence of ambition. Ambition inoculated against the devastation that follows when ambition's object does not arrive. You can want things fiercely and still be okay when they don't arrive, if you practice the okay in advance. The hardest application of detachment is not in the philosophical domain. It is in the specific, personal, emotional reality of relationships with people you have genuinely loved and lost, or love and are losing, or love and are afraid of losing. This is where detachment sounds most like cruelty and feels most like grief, and it is the most important domain. Detachment in relationships is not the removal of love. It is the removal of the part of love that says, I cannot be okay unless you are here and behaving the way I need you to behave. The love can remain. The conditional attachment of your well-being to someone else's choices does not have to remain with it. That distinction, holding the love while releasing the hostage condition, is some of the most difficult work available to a human being. The person who loves without needing brings something to a relationship that the person who needs cannot. They bring genuine presence, attention not distorted by the anxiety of managing the other person's behavior toward them. They bring freedom to the other person to be exactly who they are, because there is no system of anxious management operating beneath the surface. Counterintuitively, detachment produces more genuine intimacy than need ever does, because what it produces is presence rather than management. And in the case of toxic relationships, detachment is not coldness. It is the specific, often grief-laden process of learning that your well-being is not contingent on them changing, returning, or becoming who you needed them to be. That learning is the exit, not from the love necessarily, but from the hostage-taking that the love was being used for. Detachment is not a mindset you adopt. It is a practice you build through specific, unglamorous, daily application. Practice 1. Identify your specific attachments, not in the abstract, specifically. What outcome, if it didn't arrive, would destroy your day? What person's reaction, if negative, would reduce your sense of yourself? These are not shameful answers. They are a map of exactly where your work begins. You cannot release what you have not first clearly named. Practice 2. The reserve clause in daily life. Every pursuit, every hope, every investment, add the silent mental reservation. And if this doesn't work out, I will be okay. Not as a half-hearted hedge, as a genuine alternative state you have spent time inhabiting mentally. The more you have mentally survived the loss of something, the less the actual loss can destroy you. Practice 3. Interrupt the chase. When you notice the impulse to chase, to call when you said you wouldn't, to explain when the conversation is complete, pause. Not to suppress the impulse, to observe it, to name what it is. This is my attachment trying to resolve its own discomfort. Then choose deliberately, rather than from the momentum of the discomfort. Practice 4. Build something that requires nothing external to maintain. Work that matters to you. Relationships that give without extracting. A practice that produces results, regardless of who notices. These are not just practical resources, they are emotional ones. The person with a life full enough to be genuinely occupied is the person for whom the pursuit of someone who is leaving is simply not the most important use of what they have. Detachment is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. Detachment is the path. The person who no longer needs a specific outcome, a specific person's approval, or a specific circumstance to feel that their life has value, is the freest person in any room, not the coldest, not the least caring, the freest, and freedom of that kind, interior, self-generated, unconditional, is the only kind the world cannot take away, because it was never given by the world in the first place. It was built from inside, by practice, by patience, and by the willingness to feel everything and remain the one who decides what comes next.